This is the plaintiff, Maria Perry. She says she and her boyfriend signed a lease to rent an apartment and the defendant was the broker. Turns out they never moved in due to their no-pet policy. The landlord returned all of their money, but the stubborn, selfish defendant refuses to return his commission, and that's not fair. She's suing for $2,100, the amount she's owed. This is the defendant, Chris Avaliotis. He says the plaintiff told the landlord about a week before they were supposed to move in that they were going to get a dog, and the landlord said no. That's when they decided to back out of the rental. He did his job, and he's not giving back any money, regardless of what the landlord chooses to do. He's accused of holding on tight to the cash.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says that the defendant owes her a refund because he helped her find an apartment. She never rented it, and he won't return the commission. But the defendant says the plaintiff backed out of the deal after she signed the lease, and he has no responsibility to return anything to her because he did his job finding her the place. It's the case of commission omission.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Maria Perry and David Park, you are representing both of you. You are suing Chris Avaliotis, your broker, to return his broker fee of $2,100 because you decided not to take the apartment. Tell me what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. So my boyfriend and I were looking to move in together. We saw an apartment listed on Zillow. We called Chris, who was the seller's broker. We viewed the apartment. We liked the apartment. We requested an application. 2 days later, on October 25th, we were accepted into the apartment and sent the lease. On October 27th, we went to the apartment to sign the lease and for me to give the landlord and Chris their checks. And my mom actually came with us because she wanted to see the apartment. It was 5 minutes away from her house.
Oh.
She was very happy about that. And so during the lease signing, it came up about, like, they mentioned something about pets. And,
Was that the first time anything was mentioned about pets?
Yes. Yeah, because something like came up. Somebody mentioned something about like having pit bulls and how it can be discourteous to your neighbors and stuff like that.
Right,
So,
but did you ever ask about pet policy?
It never came up.
Do you have a pet?
I do not have a pet. No, my mother has a dog.
Okay, so then what happens?
So then, obviously, I don't have a dog, so I'm like, okay, whatever, pit bulls, My mom calls me like a day later.
Wait,
and she's
did
like,
you
hey.
sign?
She's
Wait.
like,
So for the first time you see the pet policy, and what do? Walk away, or do you sign the lease?
No, we signed the lease.
Oh,
we signed
okay.
the lease. I gave the landlord and Chris
So
their
you know
checks.
the pet policy when you hand the money over, and or the no pet policy when you sign the lease and hand the money over, and then what happens?
So then a day or two later, my mom calls me and she's like, what are we going to do? She's like, because she has a dog, she goes on work trips sometimes, and I babysit the dog. In my old apartment, I would babysit the dog. And she's like, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
No,
She's
neither
like,
did she.
Right. So yeah, she's like, call the landlord and let him know, talk to him, let him know. So that's what I did. So I called the landlord. I told him, I was like, sometimes
What kind of
babysit my
dog does your
mom's-
mother have?
A Maltese.
Okay.
Sometimes I babysit the dog. And he's like, look, if you can guarantee that the dog is not going to bark at all, then it's totally fine. But if you can't guarantee that, then it's not going to work. And so, I didn't want to be in violation of the lease. And I'm not going to guarantee that the dog isn't going to bark at all. I would rather not take that chance. So we decided to call it a day, and we arranged to meet, the landlord and myself and my boyfriend, to void the lease.
This is on what day?
So I spoke with the landlord on the 1st, and then we arranged to meet him on November 6th. So we handed him back the lease. He returned our rent, security deposit,
All of
and
it?
the parking fee.
All of it?
Correct. Yes, he returned
Wow.
all of it, and we officially voided the lease.
Okay.
So then the following day, I called Chris I let him know what happened. I asked him when he would be able to return the broker fee because we ended up voiding the lease. Everything was amicable with the landlord. Chris had only shown us that one apartment. He was acting as a seller's broker. We never signed anything with him.
This is what I don't understand. You say he's a seller's broker, he's not our broker, but you just described paying him $2,100 that you wanted back. So at some point, you had to become aware that you were the one responsible for paying the broker fee because you paid it. So when did you become aware that you were responsible for paying the broker fee?
I mean, I guess we were aware when we signed the application.
Okay. All right. So let me hear from you, Mr. Aviotis. The tenant is saying, hey, it's a void contract, so give me back my money. What is your position on that?
Well, in the advertisement, in any type of advertisement that I put on many different sites, it says no pets, pets okay. It'll say pets maximum 25 pounds. This particular ad said no pets allowed. The day that she came to sign the lease, the owner and I specifically told her we don't allow any
and
pets
she
in the
read it
building.
in the lease and still gave the money
Correct.
and still signed the lease. So she's on notice. This isn't a big surprise, right?
So she says to the owner a week, 10 days later, I have a pet. The owner was nice enough to return her security and her rent.
The owner was even nicer than that. The owner said, if your dog is not a barker, I'll let you slide. Is this an apartment building?
Yes, it's a three-family house.
Which he shouldn't say, right? Because well, I guess if he says, if you can guarantee to me that the dog won't bark. So the owner is super nice. I mean, this is a
Very nice man.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So she asked me back for her.
And I liked your comment, and he's a lawyer. Like it was
Lawyers aren't nice.
insane that a lawyer would be nice.
And he's a landlord-tenant lawyer.
A landlord-tenant lawyer. And
yes.
Yeah, okay. And
that was very nice of him. But, landlord-tenant court in New York is a problem right now, so he doesn't want any problems.
I mean, the problem would be hers. She would have to sue him for the money, and she would lose, right? You and I both know that.
He was nice enough to return it. And
nice enough to return it. Right.
I believe that I did my job. And speaking to him as an attorney, he told me I don't have to return the broker fee.
You don't. So why?
And it says on my ad, 1 month broker fee.
And she knows that she has to pay it, and she pays it. And tell me what he did wrong. Like, he did a job. He got paid by you for the job. And now, even though he did the job, Ms. Perry, you want him to give you all your money back because you changed your mind. How is that right?
Well, I mean, I just feel that the lease was voided. We never entered into it, and
the lease
wasn't voided. You signed
it wasn't voided. You signed it, and the guy was nice enough to give you your money back. But let's say the lease was, quote, voided. What difference does it make? Mm-hmm. Your agreement with him is that if he finds you an apartment, he's done his job, and he found you an apartment, and he did his job. You changed your mind on an apartment, and the guy's got to pay you back?
Chris told me multiple times via text message. There's an audio recording of a phone conversation. He also told my boyfriend in text, letting us know that he would return the broker fee to us. That was months ago. And so that was the very first thing. From the very first day I called him, he said, okay, I'm just going to wait for another tenant to move in, and I will return the broker fee back to you.
Okay. So what happened with that, Chris?
I was going to do that, but then after the texts and after she called me and told me she'll take me to court, I said, well, have somebody else like you make the decision.
God, jeez. Is that how it went down, Ms. Perry?
Yes, we told him.
Ms. Perry, let me give you a little piece of advice. Before you threaten somebody, you ought to know what legal ground you're standing on. If this guy was also nice enough to tell you, once I re-rent it, let me see, blah, 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 then you should just keep your mouth shut and wait and see if you get it. But when you start threatening legal stuff, then he's going to educate himself about legal stuff. He already knows because this is his business. So everybody he works with has been through this. So he already knows what's about to happen. And what's about to happen is he did his job, you don't get the broker's fee back. So before you threaten a lawsuit on someone who's being nice enough to return your money, perhaps you should think twice. My verdict in this case is for the defendant. The law is super clear on this. He did his job. You changed your mind. Verdict for the defendant.
Have a nice day.
And you're lucky to have gotten it from the landlord.
So it's a tough lesson for the plaintiff. She fails to get her deposit back from the broker. Ms. Perry, let me ask you how you feel about this. The judge gave you some good advice. You should have known the law before you filed the lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean, I just essentially feel that he told us multiple times he would return the broker fee to us. He told us the apartment had been re-rented and he would send it a few days later, and that was months ago. So if he should never have returned it, then I don't understand why he would have told us that multiple times. So you live, you learn.
Well, you live and learn, but he was in the right to keep it. I guess you should have just pestered him a little bit more. Maybe he would have given it to you. Let's find out what he has to say. Mr. Avaliotis, you obviously know the law here, and you said you would give it back to her. Why didn't you? Or what were you waiting for?
Well, I was going to give it back to her, sir, and the situation was the landlord gave back the security and the rent. But the problem is they call me up and says, we're going to take you to court. So I says, let's go to court, have somebody else make the decision.
All right. Well, look, you're in the right. You prevailed. You don't have to give the money back. Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Doug, it's simply tough luck that the plaintiff didn't take the apartment. It's true, the defendant did his job. It was up to her whether to take it or not, and that's why she lost.
I bought a Rolex watch for $100 at a garage sale. I dropped it on the floor a week later and it stopped working. When I took it to the repair shop, they said it's a fake. Can I sue the guy who sold it to me?
Well, whether or not you can sue about something being a fake depends on whether or not anybody told you it wasn't.
Right.
Okay?
I'm going to assume this didn't come with books and papers and a box.
Right, and some implication that it was real. I'm going to assume that it was just a watch at a garage. Now, oddly, the one place you might get that kind of a bargain is at a garage sale, because sometimes people are just getting rid of stuff and they don't know what they have.
Yeah, we always hear those stories about how
the
some
art
guy
piece,
found a Renoir.
Right, an art piece in a garage sale.
Right, some ancient thing that was...
But I doubt intensely the person at the garage sale said, oh, that's real, I guarantee it. That never happened.
I think you'll have a hard time getting
I think
a lawyer
you'll have
to
a hard
take the
time.
case, let's just
Right,
say.
right.